What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Hounds of Innsmouth podcast. Working title, probably going to go with the Howling, something like that. I'm your host, Ariel Feist. I am the vocals in Hounds of Innsmouth. And for those of you listening, since this is the first podcast, you likely don't know who we are as Hounds of Innsmouth. And let me get right into it before we start this podcast. Hounds of Innsmouth is a metal band local to the San Francisco Bay Area. Most of us live around San Bruno, but some of us South City, some Daly City, some the city itself. We've been together for a couple years now. We finally started playing some shows recently. And if you were to ask us what type of metal we are, everybody in the band would have a different definition. I tend to believe we are death metal. The other members, some say we are thrash. I think that we don't have enough, fast-paced guitar licks for that, but, we all have our own inspirations when we come to record and come to write new songs, so it doesn't really matter. We just make metal and we like how it sounds. So far, since we're still relatively small, a lot of the other metal bands that we've played with, they don't know what type of metal we are. They just classify us as Bay Area metal, which is true. So, we have a show coming up June 13th at B Street Music in San Mateo. We're hoping to play with a number of different bands, hopefully a 4-band show. We always like the bigger ones just because it's less pressure on everybody to try and get everything right, not just us, but other bands as well, and everybody seems to have a better time with it. And, it's kind of cool to play with a number of different bands, not just the same genre, and get a more eclectic view of things. But before I go on about shows or whatever, I might as well introduce myself and what Hounds of Innsmouth is and what we're intending to do with the site going forward. So I'm Ariel Feist. I am the vocals in Hounds of Innsmouth. I tend to do low growls, high-pitched screams. I'm able to do that without destroying my voice too much. We'll see how it does in the coming years if I blow out my voice eventually. Some say I can sing. I'll be the judge of that eventually when I start recording stuff, which we have been recording lately, but I still have a few more things to do before we wrap that up. Hopefully we'll have a full-length demo that's mostly like a CD that we can actually sell in some way, but if not, we're happy to give it away at shows, and, if anybody runs into us on the street. So I'm the vocals. I'm running the podcast mostly by myself today. My girlfriend Meghan is also here in the House of Innsmouth, but she's currently making some bacon chocolate chip cookies. So she'll jump in and out of this pod. She's not in the band, but our girlfriends are over at this house all the time, and this is where we practice, so it's practically like they're in the band. There's really only 5 of us that perform live at shows, but, with all the girlfriends and numerous groupies that we call our friends here, it's more like 20. So our members of the band are John Kelleher. He's our rhythm guitar. We got Henry De La Fuente on lead guitar. We have Vince Biancalana on the bass. And last but most certainly not least, the mayor, as we call him, Nick Sunson, on drums. We all have our own different tastes of metal, what we like about how metal sounds, and what we think we can bring to the band. I don't play any instruments. I've taken guitar lessons in the class. I have a general understanding of basic music theory and stuff like that, and I could play like 1 or 2 riffs on a guitar, but I don't really feel like I'm on the same level as the rest of the guys in the band. But that doesn't stop me from, saying, hey, how about we try this, and how about we build on this particular riff, how do we stretch this out? So we all kind of work together when we're writing new songs. I let them kind of take the lead on the starting point. Sometimes I provide some sort of lyrical rhythm to get them started, so it works together. And so far, I think we have got like 9-10 songs, maybe a little bit more. All original. We haven't done any cover songs yet, though we all have ideas about which songs we'd like to do. Um, and I mean, speaking of which, there's a lot of different bands that we all like to cover because we all have very different tastes in the band. But we all kind of like a lot of the same bands too. Some of us, we'll disagree, but like Black Dahlia Murder, that's a favorite amongst a lot of us. At least, Nocturnal and Miasma, those are our favorite albums. And like Carcass, Metallica is popular-ish among us. Not everybody likes them, but Nick and I agree on them. Nick and I, we tend to agree on a lot of our favorite bands, though we'll still disagree from time to time. I'm a big fan of Tool. That's my favorite band, but it's not really metal. It's more of a hard rock sound, though they certainly influence us plenty. We like to just jam out as often as we can. Everybody's got their own lives and everyone's really busy, so I've got my own day job and I'm doing this stuff on the side as kind of something fun to do on the weekends. Hopefully I can make this podcast happen on a weekly basis or something to at least give updates on the band or the website or some sort of like audio blog, just to be creative in some way in my spare time besides just sitting around watching movies all day, which we will talk about in a bit because that's the intent of this podcast. It's not just to talk about the band itself, but also what we're going to do with the site and various things that entertain us, that have been entertaining us or inspire us, etc. As I said earlier, I will be running this mostly solo today, as Megan will possibly join later when she's done baking cookies. She'll probably pop in and out. But hopefully in the future, when the rest of the band members are available and they can come join in, we'll have more podcast episodes. It's a nice sunny day here today. We're drinking a few beers, relaxing, enjoying the sunny weather, even though it's a little windy outside. So here at the House of Innsmouth, which may not be our house much longer, it's relatively cool in the living room because we're shaded by the sun, or shaded from the sun by the tree outside, so can kind of do this in relative peace, which is probably why you can hear an echo as I talk, because there's no real room for us to do proper sound recordings without it echoing around. But we'll see if down the line, if we're at a new location or things change around here, I can migrate this stuff somewhere so that there's not as much echo. But for the time being, this is what I'll have to do. I've got a couple things queued up on my Steam. We're gonna try and do some YouTube type videos and stuff like that to kind of just get our image out there, our ideas out there, stuff like that, get some attention for the band. There's a lot of people on the internet, on YouTube especially, who are just making videos about movies, about video games, and they're doing it as their job, and it's a lot of hard work for them. A lot of people don't give them the proper respect because they spend a lot of time doing all this stuff, and everybody kind of harps on them. It's like, well, it's not a real job. You're getting paid to play video games for fun, etc. It's like, well, they're doing their own editing and their own commentary, and they've got their own personalities, so I like to give them a break. I don't feel that I have quite the eccentric and wild personality as Markiplier or the Game Grumps guys. They're super popular on YouTube for playing video games, but hopefully we can get some sort of attention with the music side of things and just the quirky personalities within the band, stuff like that. But anyways, we'll move on from this. So, might as well just move into the segment of the podcast where we'll talk about various things that have been entertaining us lately: video games, movies, books, music that we've been listening to, etc. Lately, what's been playing on my playlist? I've actually been listening to a lot of different bands. I only listen to like 4 or 5 throughout the week, kind of stick with them for a while, and then kind of move on. I have my old favorites, like I already mentioned. I listen to Tool a lot, but like Gojira has been kind of a very prominent one on my playlist lately, and I've been listening to some Metallica, a lot of Mastodon, a lot of Meshuggah. Meshuggah's been kind of playing a lot lately, partially because of the fact that they got a show coming up in San Francisco on the 7th, and I'm super, super excited to go see them. The funny thing about Meshuggah is that every time they come out with a new album, I feel like it's my favorite album when I listen to it. Like they're able to make an album that, while I will not argue with anybody who says Meshuggah's songs all sound the same, when I listen to it, it sounds different enough to me that I'm able to kind of listen to it and feel like it's so new and fresh that it's like this is the best thing that's happened. And that's not the same sort of feeling I get when I listen to music most of the time. Like, actually, even though Tool is my favorite band, a lot of the times when they've released an album, I don't like the album when it first comes out because I don't know exactly what to expect. And it's only after I've kind of given it some time that I'm able to appreciate it for what it really is. But yeah, with Meshuggah, it's always a new experience. Like, I remember when Obzin came out, I was super excited to listen to Combustion over and over, and then I heard Bleed, and that blew my mind. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I've been listening to like Chaos Sphere and Nothing and Future Breed Machine, or the album that's on, Destroy, Erase, Improve. And those all kind of blew me away when I first listened to them. And then Obzin blew my mind. I'm like, wow, this is really cool too. And then the last album that came out, Colosse, that one, I've been listening to that a lot lately, and it's so much fun to listen to. It's just so exciting each time, especially getting to that last really heavy song, Demiurge, that I look forward to hearing that live. And the interesting thing about what Meshuggah is doing live is that since they're celebrating, I guess, their 25th anniversary together, I think is what they said, they actually had a poll before they went on tour asking their fans, what songs do you guys want to hear? And in their poll, they let you select like one song from every album that they've ever released. And I guess whichever one's got the most votes in whatever areas is what they're going to play. So I'm excited to see what they have in store. I've never seen Meshuggah before live, so I'm pretty stoked about seeing that. And 2014 has actually been a really good year for concerts so far. We've seen Gojira and Mastodon play the same show at the Fox Theater in Oakland, and that was really, really cool show. I wish Gojira had played a little bit longer, but I already have gotten to see them kind of perform as an opening act and as the headliner. So I've gotten to hear them a number of times, and it's just always a blast to listen to them. They've got great energy. Mastodon was awesome because they played a lot of songs that I didn't expect to hear. They didn't play some songs that I did expect to hear, which was, a little bit of a bummer, but they played for like an hour and a half, so I can't really complain much. And it was a great show. Definitely a really good show of the year. Got to see Tool for the first time this year. Despite them being my favorite band for several years, I hadn't seen them until just this year. But, their tour dates can be kind of difficult to keep track of sometimes. You find out a little too late a lot of the time. We saw Carcass when they came through with Gorguts and Black Dahlia Murder, and Noisome, I think is the name of the other band that was with them. Let's see, what else? The Regency is where we've seen a lot of bands this year. Amon Amarth came through, we got to see that. That was a pretty awesome show. Can't think of the other ones right now. Should probably just go through all my t-shirts that I've picked up from the different shows. But yeah, lately I've been listening to kind of a wide variety as opposed to what I normally listen to. Kind of sucks that there's nobody else here to kind of talk about what they've been listening to, because I'd be curious to hear from the other members of the band. It's kind of the bummer about the fact that everybody's kind of got their own schedule and day jobs, as we can't really do this on a regular basis. Certainly not as a group, so unfortunately you'll have to fly solo with me for a bit. Hopefully my sultry voice will, if not entertain you, at least calm your nerves for when you're reading a book by yourself or watching a movie and you need comfort. Speaking of movies, seen a lot of movies lately. I've had, since I've gotten this new job, I've had a lot of time to actually watch stuff on Netflix, and I've been going through kind of a horror binge. I don't really know why. I never used to be really into horror movies as a kid, and then even though I had like several movies as my personal favorites, they were horror movies, I never considered myself a horror movie buff. But then I guess after kind of my teenage years, I started to get more into it because like horror movies have kind of crazy practical effects that always made me wonder like how they did that, and kind of like an interesting way of doing storytelling. Like, they're always cliche, but they're always looking for ways to kind of get around the cliche. So I at least appreciate that aspect of horror movies, even though most of them aren't very good. But I've been watching a lot of both good and bad ones on Netflix lately. And we recently went to go see Godzilla because I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and I was excited to see the American version of Godzilla that wouldn't suck, hopefully, and I didn't think that it did. I thought it was perfectly acceptable as a Godzilla movie, not necessarily a great movie. Had a lot of flaws with it in regards to just being a movie, but it also it was clear that they knew what they were doing with the material, that they kind of wanted to pay tribute to the source material of Godzilla, and that they they felt that they wanted to get it right, at least. And the formula was all there. What we wanted out of a Godzilla movie was all there. It's unfortunate that they spent so much time with particular characters that were really boring. I mean, it's not like that's any different for any of the other Godzilla movies. Like, part of the reason I like Godzilla was when I was a kid, I watched them all the time, but I didn't really pay much attention to the human element of the movies. I just waited for the guy in the rubber suit to kick the crap out of the other guy in the rubber suit, so it's not really like I have this deep love of the movies because I think they're cinema masterpieces. They're more like masterpieces of shit most of the time, but they're entertaining in their own right anyway. So when I went to go see this, I had relatively low expectations. I thought that it started off actually relatively strong with some strong acting from Bryan Cranston, I think his name is, from Breaking Bad. And they managed to kind of really hammer in some serious tones, and I think they were hoping that that tone would kind of carry the rest of the movie, and it really didn't, because we instead spent a lot of time with this other character who was really boring, and just, he could barely emote at all, and the main female character of the movie was no better. It was really just boring family, like, give me back my family type of situations, and I just couldn't care less. It's not like that's any better from the other Godzilla movies, but I think standards are a little bit different now, especially if we're having to sit here and sit through human elements when all we really want is Godzilla destroying shit. So, but in the end, I think it was a perfectly fine movie. It was a lot better than some other Godzilla movies that are out there. I had fun. I think that if you're looking for kind of giant monsters destroying stuff and just having a really fun movie, Godzilla not necessarily is that movie for you. I think that it's geared more towards people who have an affinity towards Godzilla, or to try and hook in the people who may have been on the fence or curious about Godzilla and not knowing too much about it. Because there's not really a whole lot of stuff there for a while in that movie. It's really towards the end that you start to really get the feeling of this being Godzilla and why Godzilla is so awesome to people like myself. So if you're looking for more of just a fun movie that's just going to be nuts and crazy the whole way through, with ridiculousness and silly acting and even more monster battles, you should check out Pacific Rim, which came out last year, I believe, by Guillermo del Toro. That one, that was a lot of fun. I highly recommend that movie. Even if you're not into the giant monster stuff, like there's plenty of fun to be had in that movie, so you should probably check that one out. But man, I think I'm gonna take a break here. And wait for Megan to get in so that I'm not rambling for another 10-15 minutes about random stuff that I like, and actually have a conversation with somebody. So stick around. I'll be right back. And we're back. Joining me now is my girlfriend Megan.
Oh, hi, that's me.
She just finished making some delicious bacon chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, I'm actually posting about it on Instagram right now.
Oh, yeah. You are the worst. How dare you use Instagram?
You like it.
Ugh.
No, you don't. But you like me.
Yeah, you're pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially if you make delicious cookies.
It's true.
So I was just rambling about Godzilla and Meshuggah and various music that I was listening to all week. But I can get pretty boring listening to the one person talk about it the whole time. So I'll ask you a bunch of questions. It's not a quiz or anything. What have you been listening to in terms of music this week?
Weezer.
Weezer?
And Coheed.
So, I know the answer to the question, but what's your favorite Weezer album?
My favorite Weezer album is the Blue Album, because it is very nostalgic for me, and I can listen to it front to back, and listen to it on repeat, and listen to it without skipping any songs. And that, to me, is the mark of a great album. There are definitely some songs on other albums that I still consider my favorites. Downward Spiral, that I skip. Big man with the gun. But Blue Album is just perfection to me, and I absolutely love it. So that one's my favorite Weezer album.
What's your favorite song off that album, if you have one?
I would say it's probably a tie, three-way tie, between Say It Ain't So, because that song is extremely good live. My Name is Jonas, just because, I don't know, I really like the guitar work in that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Only in Dreams, because, I don't know, it stirs emotions in me. And I like the bass line, even though it's, like, really simple, but, yeah.
Fair enough.
So, three-way tie.
And for Coheed?
What's the question? My favorite album?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only one that I listen to pretty much all the way through is, oh god, I don't even know what it's called.
The super long one with the 4.
The number 4. It's like the Willing Rider or something.
Apollo.
Yeah, good Apollo. I'm Burning Star 4. I think that's what it is. The
Yeah.
Willing Rider's songs on it. Just kidding.
Yeah, that thing.
I don't know. I just know it's the one with the big 4 on it.
Right. Well, it's a freaking long album title. What do you expect? You can't expect your fans to remember the entire thing off the top of their head if, you know, you're not their favorite artist. Or, you know, I've never heard of them before and some hipster has to tell me about it. They're playing at the Fox Theater in September.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the 7th of September.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Yeah. I still have to get tickets.
Yeah. But that's where we saw Meshuggah or not Meshuggah, It's on my brain.
Mastodon.
Mastodon and Gojira. That was a lot of fun.
Danny was so pissed.
Yep. John's girlfriend, Danny, she's missed out on a couple good shows this year. We wouldn't necessarily classify her as a metalhead, but there are particular metal bands that she gets super psyched about.
I think that's the same for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you went to see Black Dahlia Murder, and I certainly wouldn't classify you as a metalhead.
I love them.
They've got a lot of good energy.
Yes.
And, tattoos of heartburn across their stomach.
Exactly.
What
more could a girl want?
Danny is not necessarily a metalhead, but she was super excited when she heard about Amon Amarth. However, she heard about them like 3 days before the show, and like tickets were already sold out, and it was going to be difficult for her to go at the possibility of being able to buy a ticket at the door, so she didn't end up going and missed the show and was super bummed about it. And then when Mastodon and Gojira came through, I guess nobody told her, or it never slipped out of anyone's mouth, even though that's kind of all a bunch of us talked about for like the first couple weeks after hearing about it and a couple weeks leading up to the show. So I'm not sure how she missed it, but she wasn't aware of that show either, so she was a little upset that she missed that show as well. But the Fox Theater was that was my first time.
Yeah, it was my first time being there too.
And I thought it was actually a pretty good venue.
Yeah.
It sounded really good in there.
Well, not only that, it was close to transportation.
Right, really easy to get to.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucked if you had to pee real bad.
Thanks, Bart. Thanks for not having bathrooms. But I guess if you're Bay Area rapid transit.
Not rapid enough when you really have to go, but I thought it was a good venue. It sounded pretty good in there. Air conditioned as well, because it was during our heat wave that we were having. It sounds a lot better in there than it does in the Regency, and I mean, it's kind of a bummer that the Regency's gotten so many good shows this year, but
I don't know, I saw Glassjaw there twice, and it was amazing. I wasn't worried about the sound or anything, though, so...
Yeah, I mean, if you're more concerned with just seeing them and hearing, like, a live representation of them, it's not too big of a deal. I just think that there's a lot of reverb off of the way that it's set up in there, and it just sounds muddy sometimes. But, I mean, I go to shows with earplugs in, so it doesn't really matter too much for me. So that's what you've been listening to, and you and I are kind of big movie buffs. You saw Godzilla with me. What did you think of that?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
You're
not a Godzilla fan either, right?
No, not really. But I've seen enough of the old Godzilla films, and I know that those are really more like kitschy and not trying to be serious, and when they are trying to be serious, it's hilarious. And I did see the 98 atrocity.
That one's pretty rough.
I saw this picture somebody put on a Facebook, and it said, Godzilla, now with 100% less Matthew Broderick. I was like, oh.
That wasn't really the bad side of that movie, unfortunately. There were a lot of other things wrong with that.
Yes.
I think there were several things that the new Godzilla did that wasn't as good as the 98 one of which being that it didn't have Jean Reno in it, but
the pro-Frenchional.
The pro-Frenchional. I mean, the list is pretty short, and that 98 movie is entertaining in its own right. If it had just been called something else, I think people would have let its bad nature just kind of slide in a lot of ways. If it had been Cloverfield 1,
You're right.
like, people wouldn't have cared, but because of the fact that it bore the name Godzilla, everybody had expectations, and those expectations weren't met, so... Certainly not mine. I was bummed.
I wasn't really expecting anything. I didn't see it in theater or anything. I think we rented it from Blockbuster, and that's really dating us right about now.
Yep.
But Yeah. I was like, ooh. This was hyped up a lot.
It sure was.
Not really worth it.
There were a lot of advertisements for that movie going out.
Like, they had like something with like Taco Bell too, right?
Oh yeah, they had a lot.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were talking about
the Chihuahua.
Yeah.
The Chihuahua was like all the rage at the time too. Like he was the big thing for Taco Bell, selling a shit ton of gorditas. Just saying "Yo quiero Taco Bell," and that was all it took to apparently shoot their sales through the roof. So that Taco Bell dog was very popular.
Well, anything that can teach kids Spanish, I guess.
Yeah. I want particular whitewashed American merchandising in whitewashed American tacos. So they did that with Godzilla, and then Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs.
Yeah, whatever his stupid name is.
He had that one song with Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. With his riff from Kashmir.
I really like that riff. I think it sounded good.
No, I like Kashmir. I think it's way too long.
Yes, I was just gonna say I can't listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, I kind of get bored with it. I'm
yes.
like this is a really awesome riff. It's too bad that this is all it is.
Yep.
And it reminds me of a conversation I'll have to save for when Nick is on this podcast. But it kind of reminds me of certain things about Saint Anger from Metallica and the conversation I had with Nick. But I think that Kashmir is a good song. It's just fucking way too long. And, I guess it's a good thing that I don't really remember the Puff Daddy song, but I don't...
I just remember him saying "come with me" a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And then there was like this one slow part. It sounded almost like he was crying.
Maybe he saw the movie before he did the music video.
Maybe, I don't know.
Regardless, you liked the new Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
I liked that Godzilla was kind of the good guy. I mean, even when you're watching like the first Godzilla and he's the bad guy, you're still kind of cheering for him.
Yeah.
Because it's cool to see him blow shit up, and it's kind of sad to watch humans try to destroy something, because that's just what we do. But yeah, it's fun to cheer for him and see, the specific, like, bullet points they're supposed to hit because he's Godzilla, and see it done well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a specific formula to the Godzilla movies. It's like the military has to attempt to do something to him and fail. There's only been two movies, not counting the 98 one, where he's kind of been alone. It was the original Godzilla, and then it was Godzilla in 1985, as it was released here, where he was the only monster in the movie. But every other movie since the first one, and excluding 85, he fought against another monster. So that's kind of a formulaic thing. And then also, you have to have just a lot of humans talking and looking at charts and stuff and talking about how they can't think of any way to defeat Godzilla, but they have to try. And, that has to take up a majority of the time in the movie, and I was telling this to other people, but when you have a giant monster movie, it can't be entirely Godzilla just destroying shit. You have to have the down periods where you have people talking about him. So then that way, when it does happen, it's more hyped up, and you're more excited about it. It's not diluted, and it's not overplayed. I feel like the newest movie, they kind of downplayed it a little bit too much, because they teased it a number of times, and cut away at times when you just kind of wanted Godzilla to start tearing into shit. But overall, I felt that they built him up plenty, at least. So it's not like they downplayed Godzilla like in 98. That was the main thing, was that they made him a lot smaller, even though his scale was really inconsistent throughout the entire movie. But he was somehow able to be taken down by the military with just some missiles on a bridge, and he was just some stupid tuna-eating lizard, as opposed to this kind of more sentient being who's able to do dance moves on the moon, or Planet X from Monster Zero. or do some weird drop kick moves and crazy acrobatic shit that you see in the other Godzilla movies. So, yeah, a 98 movie. I've only seen most Godzilla movies before 1985. I didn't see too many after that because they weren't released over here theatrically or on VHS very much. There was like Godzilla vs. Biollante was the last one that was released on VHS over here that I recall seeing anywhere. And then I didn't get to see any until I started getting like random international channels, and I got to see Godzilla 2000 and like one of the Mecha Godzilla ones from like the 90s, and now I've finally been able to see a bunch of them. But I like the idea that Godzilla is not necessarily a good guy slash necessarily a bad guy. He's just a destructive force of nature, and he's kind of the devil they know versus the devil they don't know type of situation. So I kind of like that scenario. I'm always more of an anti-hero type person anyways when it comes to my characters. I prefer the heroes that have some dark sides to them where you can't entirely trust them, because I feel like that complexity makes them more interesting to follow.
Well, yeah, a straight hero is more boring.
Yeah, like Superman.
Yeah, and they try to give him different story arcs and whatever to make you sympathize with them or something.
The thing about Superman is they always come back to kind of the same argument too, where he has to make a decision about what's good versus what's bad, and like he's unable to see kind of the gray area of things. So I guess that's a cool argument, but it only goes so far in my opinion.
Well, I think that's why you and I like that sort of anti-hero thing too, is because that's all they are, is gray area. They want to believe that there is black and white, but because of their personality, their experiences, whatever makes them a person, it's like they can't make a decision, or
yeah,
they have this idea of what they should be like, but then, I don't know, circumstance.
Right. And then usually the circumstances kind of just prove over and over again that there is no just simple, clear-cut way to determine what's right and what's wrong. Because it's more realistic anyways. You're never, like, I shouldn't say never, because then that's the same sort of thing, but you're less likely to encounter a scenario where you can simply say this is right, this is wrong, 100% of the way. Personal scenario, anyway. You can certainly put in plenty of hypotheticals, but regardless, getting off track. See, we've watched a bunch of movies lately on Netflix. I just finished Zodiac yesterday.
Yeah.
So, a little interesting story behind this movie. I knew a little bit about the Zodiac killer from the 60s and 70s prior to watching this movie, and I hadn't watched the movie when it come out, and I just watched it a few days ago, but...
Well, I think kind of just living in this area and having our parents live here too.
Right.
You've probably heard about it at some point.
Yes, absolutely.
I know my mom definitely told me about it.
Yeah, it was scary for several family members. My parents were actually, like, my mom was still a kid, but my dad, he was old enough for it to have an impact on him. And so I was interested in it, and I wanted to watch the movie eventually, and finally got around to doing so. And I was watching it, and just relaxing on the couch, and, you know, it was going along. I thought it was okay so far. The acting was fine. It didn't really feel like there was much momentum to the story. Like, it was just, here are a bunch of actors with familiar faces for you to follow, but you don't really remember their character names very much because there's so many characters that they're going through, and they're bouncing back and forth in this investigation, and then, you know, we're spending time during the killings and stuff, and it felt like there were a lot of needless scenes in that movie. And so I'm watching it, and I feel like it's getting towards the end. And then my friend Desiree comes over, and she was asking me about, you know, if she left her phone in my car. So I said, I don't know, let me check. So I paused the movie, and I go out to my car. Sure enough, her phone's in my car. Come back in, we're sitting and chatting a bit. And then I look back at the TV screen and I see the Netflix marker of where I am in the movie and how far I'd made it through. And I was not even halfway. And I was like, I don't know if I can finish this piece of shit because there's no frickin' way. I've been watching this for an hour and a half and I'm still like not even halfway through this thing, and it feels like the movie should be ending soon. So it took me another week and a half to finally finish that movie, and I had to be like really bored to do so. And I watched it, and as an overall movie, it's fine. Like, I don't think it's a bad movie.
It's not the worst movie.
I don't think it's a great movie either. I think that it's just okay. It'll hold your attention a little bit. It's definitely something, like, even though it's kind of a thriller / horror movie in certain respects, not
mystery.
Yeah, mystery. It's actually one of those movies where you should probably just put it on the background while you're doing something else because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it feels like it should be more interesting because it's real life. It's not something that Hollywood made up. I mean, I'm sure they fluffed up some stuff, but
yeah, it just...
it's based on real life. It's based on a real guy's... Like, that guy's, whatever his name is, Jake Gyllenhaal's character. It's based on his real experiences, and... But I feel you on that.
Yeah,
It starts to get boring.
It got boring, and it felt like they were kind of running over the same tread over and over again. Like, they just kept going down the same road, and I was like, okay. And it just felt like there were a lot of needless scenes in that movie. Like... We need like a director's cut or something to just trim it down to an hour and a half because it went on for far too long. But that was not the worst movie I watched over the course of the last couple weeks, but we watched a pretty bad one last night. So, this movie's called Cursed, if you ever heard of it. It's a really terrible werewolf movie, directed by Wes Craven, which is surprising, but I mean, no director ever turns out pure gold every time they direct a movie, so I guess you can't expect a master of horror to be perfect every time. Man, that movie sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was trapped in a 90s bubble because it was released in like 2005, but it was like following the same cliche tropes of every movie ever.
They're so bad.
Yeah. There is one really good... Well, there's two scenes that were entertaining. One of which was funny for probably not intended reasons. One of which was funny for its own reasons. But if you're considering watching that movie, just know that there's not a whole lot of payoff to that movie.
Nope.
It's on Netflix right now. I'd recommend skipping it unless you really want to watch just some piece of crap movie. It's not even really funny to watch or make fun of, and that's what we enjoy doing a lot.
Yes.
It was just kind of like, well, this is on. I guess I'll just keep watching it.
It was really painful to try to get through.
Yeah. There's better werewolf movies out there for you to watch. And I think American Werewolf is still on Netflix, too. But, whatever.
Maybe, I don't know.
What were some other movies we watched on Netflix recently?
We watched A Fantastic Fear of Everything
Alright.
last night, which was really entertaining.
With Simon Pegg.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty entertaining. Not his funniest movie, but I enjoyed.
Yeah, it was kind of like Wes Anderson-ish to me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Because they even had the little stop motion section in it, too.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that part of it. But yeah, I feel it wasn't... I feel that if your first introduction to Simon Pegg was Shaun of the Dead, that's going to be your favorite movie of his.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably like, I don't know, one of his more well-known ones, obviously.
Certainly. I am definitely partial to Hot Fuzz. I think that's a pretty damn funny and exhilarating movie, certainly at the end.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new one that he did with Nick Frost, the At World's End.
Oh, there's also the Alien one, right?
Right.
Paul?
Paul, yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
No, me either.
What else we watched?
Wait, they did another one.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Okay, I can't think of it.
We also watched the X-Men movie, not the one that's in theaters at the moment, but the one before that.
Yes.
First Class. I thought that was okay. I've seen X-Men 1, 2, 3, and then the Wolverine movie that followed that one, and then I stopped watching the X-Men movies. I liked 1. I thought 2 was an improvement. It was more fun to watch. I thought 3 was terrible. Not just because of, I feel like with superhero movies, like there are the people who say that it's terrible because it doesn't match the comics or are very sensitive about how the movie's treated. But I feel like X-Men 3 was terrible as a movie in general, not just because it was like just butchering its source material. And then the Wolverine movie that came after that, where everybody was like, "Oh no, you should give it a chance. I think they're trying to make reparations from the last one." I felt was like even just about as bad. Not some people were more willing to forgive that one. I was like, "Oh, this is getting real cheesy and dumb." And I felt like the first 2 X-Men movie managed to kind of nail a bunch of the serious tones and themes of X-Men while still kind of having the fun, campy qualities be subtly played in there. So, you've seen X-Men 1, and you like that movie a lot.
I was very obsessed with it. I saw it at the drive-in when it was still in Burlingame.
Wow.
When it first came out. It was, they do double feature, so it was X-Men and some other fucking movie, I don't remember. But I remember just being absolutely in love with it, and that weird, like, sexual tension between Wolverine and, like, everybody in the movie was very fascinating to me. When did that come out? I was
2000.
Okay, so I was 13. And I remember telling my dad, "Can we stay and watch it again?" And we did. And then his car died. His car battery died.
Oh, jeez.
Whoops. But it managed to go back on. We didn't have to do jumper cables or anything, for those of you who were worried. But yeah, I was super obsessed with it. I remember, like, not cosplaying or anything like that, but, like, pretending I was Rogue, like, in my room by myself. Like, I could drain people's, like, life force or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever give it a term, but, I liked Rogue. I always thought that she was a good character in the comics and the TV show, and I thought that Anna Paquin was a good choice.
Well, she's attractive.
But,
and I've only seen that one and then 2.
Right.
X-Men 2, whatever.
But you don't really remember that one as much.
I don't, no. The other thing that I liked about the first one was Ray Park was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, like, just me coming off of absolutely loving Star Wars Episode 1.
Uh-huh.
And Ray Park's in that one, too.
Yep.
And somewhere around that same time, also, Sleepy Hollow came out, and Ray Park is the stuntman for the Headless Horseman, so... Yep. I had a big Ray Park thing going on during that time.
It's cool.
But other than those 2 X-Men movies, I haven't seen any other ones, and I don't know anything about the universe. I never watched the cartoon. So looking at it from, like, an outsider's point of view, I think it worked.
Yeah.
Not knowing that Rogue has other abilities, or not knowing that, I don't know, maybe there's different characters that should have been put in and they weren't. And,
yeah, whatever.
Oh, and the only thing I remember about 2 is Alan Cumming, isn't it, right?
Yes, he is Nightcrawler in that one.
I like him a lot.
He was everyone's favorite character from that movie.
Well, it's Alan Cumming.
Yeah, and he definitely stole the show. I think the X-Men 2 was an improvement from the first one in the sense that it was no longer like trying to introduce all the characters anymore. It still introduced Nightcrawler, so they still had some introductory stuff to it, but it had a much more fast-paced plot. There were several different things going on at once that you could easily follow, and they all kind of led to the same sort of conclusion. And so it worked as a movie a lot better. But I still think the first X-Men movie is a perfectly good film, and it's definitely the movie that's responsible for making the comic superhero movies a big thing in Hollywood. Like, before that, they were kind of, like, I think... they were trying to recover after Batman and Robin, because there wasn't really a whole lot else going on in terms of superhero movies at the time. There was Spawn.
That guy.
But yeah, nothing really made that much money, and then X-Men made a lot of money, and they realized, hey, there's a market here, as kind of like these kids that grew up on all the cartoon shows were starting to mature and want to go see those movies. So, and X-Men 3 is a movie that I never want to watch again, because it was really dumb and boring, and the characters became super inconsistent. Like, Magneto is suddenly a completely different person from what he was established in the first two movies, and then the Wolverine movie was just boring as well and really cheesy and over the top. But we watched, getting back to the main point, we watched the First Class.
One.
Yeah. Sex-Men.
Sex-Men.
I thought it was good. I still like X-Men 2 better, but I think it was a perfectly good film. It bored me in a few spots, but I don't know. And I thought the special effects were...
yeah.
That CG stuff was a little overused.
Oh, and J-Law.
Yeah, Jennifer
Still
Lawrence.
Not convinced.
I'm not convinced either. Neither Megan nor I have seen the movie that she won the Academy Award for, but Jennifer Lawrence in each movie I've watched her has definitely not impressed me from her acting ability so far. So hopefully we'll see a movie at some point that she is better in, but right now she seems like one of those flat actors.
She is. She just has that same face where it's just, there's no emotion going on.
Right. Or it's like whatever emotion it is, it's not complex. It's like, now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Now I'm thoughtful.
But then she also has that very monotone voice.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds me very much of Zooey Deschanel. At least Zooey Deschanel, she's cute to look at. And, first of all, very important, first of all. But she also can emote with her face a little bit more because she has those huge eyeballs.
Yeah.
But Zooey Deschanel has a very... God, it's just like a deadpan voice.
Yeah, it's a little deadpan. I feel like Jennifer Lawrence, like, she looks to me like somebody who had plastic surgery and, like, dropped 20 years off of their lifespan. She looks like she should be, just because of the way that her face is structured with her cheekbones and kind of the way her skin kind of glistens on the camera, it looks like somebody who had plastic surgery way too young.
She also looks like she tried to have plastic surgery on her baby face. Because she kind of has a baby face.
Yeah, she does. I don't think that she's unattractive.
I don't think we said that at all.
Yeah.
And we didn't certainly say she's a bad actress. We just don't see what everybody else sees.
Yeah. And I don't know her personally, so.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there. I can't make that argument now. It's all void.
Yep.
I don't know. I heard that her performance in the new X-Men movie is about just as much as it was in this one, so we'll see. I mean...
I have a question. Isn't Mystique's hair in the first one, like, a lot shorter? It's, like, kind of here, right? Not, like, to her shoulder.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's supposed to be around shoulder length.
Okay.
But I don't know how long it was in the first movie.
I kind of feel like it was only, like, to the nape of her neck or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like a remain.
Yep. Nice cameo in that movie. It was like a 2-second cameo.
This is really random and going off track, but wasn't there like a Conan thing where he was interviewing her and she was talking about how she's trying to stalk John Stamos at a party or something?
Maybe.
That's just really weird because that just kind of circles back around to Rebecca Romaine. just got a really weird scenario play out in my head. Never mind. You can edit that part out, Barry.
Nah, keep it all in. So we watched that movie.
Oh my god, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender.
And they're two attractive men.
It's so weird that I kind of forgot that Professor X ends up in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like, no, honestly, like, as I was watching the movie, I totally forgot that that's what his character is known for in later life or whatever. Right. I don't know why I forgot, but whatever, James.
I mean, you said it yourself, you're not, like, super invested in the comics or the cartoon show, so...
But it's kind of a thing that...
Sure.
You think I would remember from being obsessed with the first one and Patrick Stewart and...
I mean, it's almost... Like, I don't think they really even needed to paralyze him in that movie. I think they do something in the new one, because I feel like I've seen pictures of James McAvoy on his feet again in this one.
Well, maybe they flashback.
Yeah, so I don't know. But it seems like... It seems like they really didn't need to do that then. I mean, they could have done that at any point, but whatever.
I think it's just the big climax.
Yeah.
The like, third big climax at the end or whatever it was.
To remind you that this was in the past.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the origin story of the X-Men. But it was good. It was fine. I'd watch it again.
Anything with Michael Fassbender in it.
Yeah, I mean, now that you know who he is, you got through 300.
Ugh.
It was a great movie, right?
It really almost wasn't worth watching just for Michael Fassbender. Because even though he had long hair, like, I've already seen him without his clothes on, so it's fine.
Yep.
But having to look at Gerard Butt,
I remember when I saw 300, I saw it in theaters, and I was really into it because I just was, like, aching for some sort of choreographed fighting in a movie. Like, I hadn't seen a Jackie Chan movie in a long time, and there was just, like, nothing was happening in terms of, like, the action genre. Nothing really grabbed my attention. So when it came out, I'm like, yes, this is really stylized, this looks cool. There's a bunch of filters, half-naked dudes. And it was a really cool looking movie, and so I kind of was able to watch it and not really pay attention to everything else that was happening in it that was really dumb and not entertaining. So when we finally watched it recently, it was like the first time I'd watched it in, I don't know, 8 years or something, however long it's been. And God, it was a trial for me to get through. And just watching the same choreographed fight scenes play out, I was like, man, I should just go back and watch Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah. See, when I first tried to watch that movie, it was in the same room with my mom.
Right.
So, right away, there's a gratuitous sex scene, which I had to nope out of, because that's awkward.
Indeed.
And then watching it, recently, it was just kind of like, oh, Michael Fassbender, he's attractive to look at. Oh, now there's all this shit I don't care about.
Yep.
Cool.
But it was his kind of breakout role. He wasn't in anything before that I remember seeing him in.
He's in Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, but
I don't remember.
300 came out before that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't remember him in that either. So.
Oh, really?
Really, the only thing that I knew him for was Prometheus.
Right. And he was great in that. He
is.
That movie, I could have an hour-long podcast about that movie, just because of how much I love the Aliens movies, and then sort of like that movie but despise it at the same time. But in a nutshell, I'll say right here, Michael Fassbender makes that movie.
Yes.
If you are to watch that movie for any reason, it's for the special effects. But if you want any sort of actor to latch onto in that movie, it is Michael Fassbender. He is the best actor in that movie. He's the best character, period. He does a really good job with the role he's cast to play. And, I mean, he was enthralling in that role. So, and that's about all I can say about that movie without getting upset.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. Most people, I do believe, like Charlize Theron. But I don't really care about her.
Yeah.
You know,
I think she's fine. I'm indifferent about her.
Well, I'm just saying because I work in a makeup store and we sell J'adore perfume there, and she's like the spokeswoman for it or whatever. So anytime we have to watch a video about J'adore and she's in it, all the girls in the room are like, oh, she's so pretty, she's so gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, she's alright. She has a weird name. But what is she like? She's like South African or something?
I believe she's from South Africa.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
anyways, I think I'm also just kind of turned off by her because you see her naked in Devil's Advocate. I think I have this really weird problem with seeing actresses that I don't really, have a this or that kind of feeling about them, and then abruptly having their private parts shoved in my face in a movie. Because that's how I feel about Rosario Dawson, too. Her boobs were in some movie, right? Was it Sin City? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember.
No, Alexander. That's what it was.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie.
You're not missing out.
I know.
But yeah, it's just, I think I just have this weird complex where, oh, there's an actress who, she's alright, I guess. Whatever. Ah, her boobs! I feel awkward.
I don't know. I'm all for more boobs on the screen.
Yeah, but it's weird when it's like an actress that I don't really care about. If it's ScarJo, obviously I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If it's Christina Ricci, she has nice boobs. Then yes, please, thank you.
But actress who is on the fence in terms of your opinion of her.
Yeah. That's like automatically, nope!
Well, you're also unable to let go of certain performances of actors as well.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Can't ever watch anything with Benedict Cumberbatch without, even though
he's a creep. I don't like him. He looks like a creep. He looks like a child molester.
You're saying that after having watched him in Atonement, where he does what?
He's a child molester.
Right. So
but that's what he looks like in real life too.
No, he just looks like Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, he looks like a child molester.
He looks like Sherlock to me because that's what I've watched him in, and I think he's a great actor.
No, he's a child molester. Ew, I don't like him.
It just shows how good of an actor he is to have had that impact on you.
I hate when people say that shit.
I mean, that makes Keanu Reeves a really good actor for imprinting on me that he's a stoner surfer dude from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I'm pretty sure he was just playing himself in that movie.
Yeah. Now, whenever I see any movie with Keanu Reeves.
Well, see, now I'm trying to think of other actors that maybe I saw, like, them in a weird... What's that guy? Lupin. Whatever his name is. The guy who plays Lupin in Harry Potter.
Yes. You can't stand him
I don't
either.
like him either.
And what was it that he did that you didn't like?
I don't even remember what it's called. It's this weird 90s movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in it, and that's the reason I watched it, because, of course, in the 90s, if you were a girl, you loved Leonardo DiCaprio automatically.
Yeah.
That was like your rite of passage. And I can't remember what it was called, but the guy, whatever his name is, was playing like this artist, I don't know, in France or England or something, and it was just this really weird, like, gay relationship thing going on. I don't know. That was a weird movie, and it just left a weird imprint on me, and B, I don't like how that actor talks. If that sounds trivial, whatever. But that leads into 3. Did I go A, B, and 3? Edit that out. It's fine. And lastly, I didn't see him as Lupin. That is not how I see Lupin in the books. And I typically don't act like that with, books turned into movies, because I see them as two separate things,
Right.
unless they go way off into the deep end and it's like completely wrong. I'm Percy Jackson. But, you know, they had such a great track record of like, here's Harry Potter. Yes, that's how I imagined him. Here's Dumbledore. That's fucking perfect. Here's fucking Snape. Here, you know, everybody they picked for the cast was like fucking spot on. And then here comes Lupin, and I'm like, you're not Lupin. That's not how I imagined you at all. I should think about who I would imagine as Lupin.
Yeah. I like that character in the books, but I didn't really grow so attached that I was like, oh no, he's a terrible casting. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Ooh, but just that entire, both of them, Tonks and Lupin, no.
Meh.
Whoever that actress was doing Tonks, completely wrong. No. N-O.
I remember seeing that guy in Dragonheart. He was the villain in that.
Okay.
That was one of those 90s movies where it's like, hey, we have CG technology now. We can do stuff with it. And it's like, you look at it now and, whew.
Ooh. You know what I just thought of? This is really random, but it's bouncing back to, like, actors, you know, in a role that kind of have left me with this idea of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, the guy in that Dark City movie that we just watched.
Right.
What the hell's his name?
I don't know.
Rufus or something?
Yeah, something like that.
My first impression of him was, that's really dorky, but A Knight's Tale.
Yeah, no, that's the one that I go to, too.
Okay.
He was the villain, right?
Yes. So, actually, there's a lot of actors that are like that, and they're mostly like the 90s ones, because I'll get to another one in a second.
Okay.
But, like, usually when I see him in movies, he is, like, the bad guy.
Yes, no,
so
he typically...
seeing him as kind of, you know, the hero of this
the
movie.
vulnerable hero.
Yeah, and having this romantic relationship, it was just really weird, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I can, like, look at actors who have played the part well to the point that, you know, I despise them in the movie, but then I see them in other movies and I'm like, oh, it's this guy. Cool. Not for Hubert Cucumerdale, though. But another instance is, like, again, really dorky. This is my girly childhood coming out. But watching Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann version, I really hated John Leguizamo in that movie.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my god, he's such a dick, and he's so mean to Leo. Like,
was he Mercutio?
No,
or
he was,
he was the alternate, basically. He's the one who kills Mercutio, right?
yeah. Why can't I think of his name?
I can't remember either.
Oh god, my mind is going.
Whatever. We don't remember the names of Shakespeare's characters.
Tybalt. There we go.
Tybalt, yes. Good job. I would have never remembered that.
That was fucking painful. All I kept thinking was Capulet, and I was like, no, that's the last name.
So anyways, John Leguizamo, you hated him in that movie.
I was like, oh, this guy. And then,
but then you loved him in Super Mario Brothers.
Yes.
You haven't seen that movie.
I think I have,
Oh, really?
but I don't remember it. I think I may have seen, like, bits and pieces.
Yeah, no, it's...
But
something.
I mean, like, him in, what's it, Moulin Rouge.
Uh-huh.
Love him in that, and, you know, got to know him pretty well from his stand-up.
His stand-up's pretty funny.
Yes. Oh, and what's that one movie, The Pest?
The Pest.
It's so 90s.
Yeah, no, that was... Even just the cover of that DVD is the most 90s of 90s.
It's really good. I love that movie.
And Spawn. Let's not forget his portrayal of the clown.
It's not.
I dubbed thee Spawn.
Oh, that's so good. Yes.
No, going back to the Dark City thing, what'd you think of that movie?
I enjoyed it for the most part. It's like I said, it was like, what did I even say?
You said it was like a mixture of Blade Runner with Memento.
Oh yeah.
Along with like
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser
Yeah.
all together. and I think that's a very astute analogy. It's if you don't know Dark City, I recommend looking it up. It's kind of a unique little movie that fell under the radar when it came out.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I think that it's pretty good up until the climax when it starts going apeshit with all of its really crappy CG.
Yep.
I mean, you could probably make the same argument about so many movies around the same time period when they thought their CG was hot shit when it really wasn't. But it's just, up until then, it's kind of an interesting psychological thriller in this sort of environment that's very like straight out of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Even like watching it, I feel like you could watch it with Smashing Pumpkins playing in the background.
And I did think that, well, besides the fact that those guys all had shaved heads and were super pale. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
It's like Billy Corgan could have played all those roles.
Could have done the soundtrack.
Yep. But I think it's a pretty interesting, unique little movie worth seeing.
I mean, it's definitely different. It's not, I know that when I was watching it, I kept asking myself, like, what's going to happen? Like, who are these people? And that's definitely a great thing about a movie, is it's getting you involved and makes you want to keep watching, so you get the stupid answers already. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really follow what the answers were. So I guess it's one of those movies where you kind of have to maybe rewatch it in order to understand, because that's how I felt when I first watched The Matrix. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And actually, I probably won't watch it again, because I don't care.
Yeah.
But
I really like The Matrix, but I don't think I could watch it anymore. I've watched it too many times.
It's really windy out.
It sure is.
I wonder if that's picking it up.
No, I'm sure it is.
Okay, cool.
I guess that's enough movie talk for now. We watched a lot of movies lately.
I love watching movies.
Me too.
We watched also just one more, Devil's Backbone.
Oh yeah, we did watch that. That was really good.
Yes.
I had not watched it beforehand. I remember you telling me a lot about it. Because you're a big Guillermo del Toro fan.
Definitely, I am. But it's an interesting little film. I feel that more people have probably seen Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh yeah.
So
I saw that in theaters.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jealous. But if you have not seen Devil's Backbone, I think Guillermo del Toro described it as, they're like brother and sister movie basically. Mm-hmm. So Devil's Backbone is more of the male version, and then Pan's is more of the female version, whatever.
Right.
Which I can see, obviously. Yeah. The characters are male and female.
Obviously, and they're both it's from the children's perspective.
Right.
A majority of the way through. I feel like Devil's Backbone was a lot more cut and dry in terms of what it was saying, as opposed to Pan's Labyrinth.
Well, yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's bad in any way. I think that it was a very kind of intriguing movie. Like, the plot itself wasn't necessarily anything that was like deep or new or whatever, but watching it, you kind of couldn't stop watching. So
my biggest thing that I love about that movie is it's genuinely creepy. Mm-hmm. I know we were watching it during the day, so probably not as much, but it's genuinely a really creepy story, and I love the effect that they have for the ghost. Mm-hmm. And I know we talked about this, but just to put it on record, it's that same idea of, here's something that's supposed to be really scary. Oh, but then here's the real monster. It's a human being.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's what Del Toro does all the time in his movies. Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Most certainly.
Because it kind of offsets, like, maybe where your priorities should be. Mm-hmm. Maybe you shouldn't be worrying so much about this thing that can't really hurt you, and focus more of your attention on getting away from this fucking psycho. Yep.
So I guess we've talked for long enough. We'll wrap this up. We're gonna some things coming to the site, hopefully soon rather than later, just because there's no telling what my schedule would be like outside of work. But I hope to do more podcasts like this, hopefully with other members of the band available. I'll be a little more diverse with their opinions and ideas about music and movies in general, but movies will be a common topic on here because it's what we do a fair amount of the time. Video games as well, because I'm a big fan of those. Probably going to start posting some reviews of said video games and movies, maybe not in written form, but in video or audio form. That way we can just kind of get the content out there. But we're going to start playing a game. May not play through the whole thing for the sake of the site, but just do it for a bit and blabber more while still playing a game that we enjoy. So thanks for listening. Thank you, Megan, for sitting in on this.
Yay.
And thank you for your cookies.
Yeah.
I'm Ariel Feist. I'll see you guys next time.